Welcome to EPG Pathshala, and this is Professor G. Srinivas Reddy, former Professor of Public Administration, Kakatiya University, Warangal, Telangana State. Today I am presenting to you one of the most influential thinkers in the field of business management, whose ideas are highly relevant for public administration, namely Frederick Herzberg. Frederick Herzberg's full name is Frederick Irving Herzberg, and he is a renowned clinical psychologist. He has propounded a new theory of motivation or management known as the two-factor theory, which is also known as motivation hygiene theory. He is also one of the most popular American psychologists, and he is perhaps considered to be the most influential name in the scholarship of business management. We try to understand Frederick Irving Herzberg's contributions in four parts. In first part, I shall lecture about his personal details, his biodata. Second, I would make a mention of some of his important publications. Third, we try to learn about his major ideas and theories. And finally, we will come to a critical evaluation of the contributions of Herzberg. Now we come to the first part. Herzberg was born in the year 1923 in Lyon, in Massachusetts, United States of America. He died in the year 2000. He had joined the City College of New York in the year 1939, and he had to leave his studies to join army, in which he was enlisted. Let me just mention for the benefit of students that in the United States there is a practice of conscription, wherein all young able-bodied people have got to compulsorily serve the military. So this was how his studies were disturbed, and he later on joined the university once again and obtained his graduation in the year 1946. And he obtained a master's degree in science and public health. He also obtained a PhD degree from Pittsburgh University, and interestingly, the study was about electric shock therapy. He worked at the University of Utah, and he established a Department of Industrial Mental Health at Case Western Reserve University. Coming to his important writings, publications, apart from his work on mental shock, establishing a department, and his teaching career and contributions to clinical psychology, the writings of Herzberg are the following. He has published the magnum opus, or the most important publication of Herzberg is the book titled Motivation to Work. This was published in the year 1959. Much of the lecture revolves around the contributions made in this particular book. The second publication was in the year 1968 with the title Work and Nature of Man. The third publication is The Managerial Choice to be Efficient and to be Human. This was published in 1976. He has also published some articles in the prestigious Harvard Business Review. Now we come to some of the major ideas of Herzberg. Herzberg's principal contribution is a theory known as motivation hygiene theory. This theory is also known as a two-factor theory because it talks about two different factors, which are motivators and hygiene factors. And this is the basic ideas of two-factor theory are contained in the book of Herzberg entitled Motivation to Work, published in 1959. And this book or the theory is born out of a study directed by Herzberg on job attitudes of employees at Psychological Service of Pittsburgh. This study is based on interviews with some 200 engineers and accountants from 11 different industries in the Pittsburgh area of United States of America. The questions in the interviews were about what kind of things made employees happy and satisfied, and what kind of conditions or factors made the employees unhappy and dissatisfied. So he was trying to locate what are the satisfiers and what are dissatisfiers as far as employees are concerned. He discovered that whenever employees were dissatisfied with their jobs, it was about the work environment. Now, dissatisfaction was largely because of the environment of the work or the conditions that surround the work. And whenever they were satisfied, it was about the work itself. Now, satisfaction was because of the intrinsic nature of the work, whereas dissatisfaction was because of the conditions surrounding the work. The second factor, namely that bring in satisfaction, is labeled as motivator or motivators. What brings satisfaction to the individuals is named by Herzberg as motivator. And what caused dissatisfaction was because of environmental factors. So therefore, he labeled them as hygiene factors. Another important thing to be mentioned about Herzberg's study is that he followed a particular methodology, and that methodology is known as critical incident method. So this is one of the methods, psychological methods of testing the abilities of candidates for jobs and all that. It's now widely practiced by the recruiters. This method would ask a prospective candidate for a job or an employee about whom you want to analyze as to what were the most defining incidents in his life. Defining incidents are labeled as critical incidents. One-of-a-kind incidents. One-of-a-kind incident of two types. Incidents that made them extremely happy. They never felt so very happy like the one now. So what is that gave them extreme happiness? This is one critical incident. And another is, what was the incident that gave anybody the Great Depression or a very, very unhappy feeling of frustration and rejection. So such incidents were probed very deeply by Herzberg to locate the factors that influence performance or non-performance. Now, one more important idea that Herzberg throws is that he says absence of dissatisfaction and presence of satisfaction are not one and the same. Just to elaborate the point a little further, it doesn't mean that if somebody is not dissatisfied, that he is satisfied. Not having dissatisfaction is one thing, having satisfaction is another thing. This is a very crucial distinction he was making. He says some of the environmental factors, which he lists little later. So these things will prevent, these are named hygiene factors, and these hygiene factors prevent dissatisfaction of employees. Preventing dissatisfaction of employees is important, though by itself it does not lead to motivation. What brings motivation is satisfiers, which is the nature of work itself. So this was the crucial distinction he was making, and all students must make a note of this. In any human performance, if somebody is not dissatisfied, does not mean that he would be resorting to action. He would take up action only when there is some satisfaction or satisfiers are there. On the basis of his research on 200 employees in Pittsburgh area, Herzberg lists out what are the motivators and what are hygiene factors. Let me just mention, motivators were also labeled by him as satisfiers, or those things that bring in satisfaction. The motivators are number one, the job itself. Now, the job design or the way the job is structured, what exactly is the job, that is itself a great satisfier. The second important motivator is achievement. So there are some jobs where there is scope for tremendous achievement. There are some jobs where there is little scope for achievement. Jobs that have larger scope for achievement are satisfying jobs. The third important motivator or satisfier is recognition for accomplishment. Achieving is something, and being recognized for achievement is another thing. So, whenever some good achievement is there, an employee should be recognized. This recognition gives him a lot of satisfaction. Next important thing is challenging work. Work can be of two types. Work that is, insipid, dull, work which is of a very, very routine type, and there is no excitement in doing that kind of work. Contrasted to this, there is a work which is highly challenging. It's not a work which everybody can do. It is a work only some specially marked out people with lot of imagination and maybe a lot of tenacity or a lot of ability only can do. So that kind of work also gives a lot of satisfaction. Next important motivator is increased responsibility. Jobs in which there is a responsibility, they are likely to enthuse employee to be satisfied and to be happy. Now, all these motivators, let me just summarize them. The job itself, the nature of job, the scope for achievement, the recognition that comes from the job well done, the challenging work, the increase in responsibilities and opportunities for growth and development. There is also one more factor which is a satisfier. An employee should have opportunity of rising in his career. He should have promotional avenues and he should have scope for developing himself. So these things are all motivators, and the motivators, according to Herzberg, improve productivity of the organization. Now, contrasted to this, there is a list of factors known as hygiene factors. These hygiene factors are also known as dissatisfiers, because if these things are there, they prevent dissatisfaction, but they don't get satisfaction, bring in satisfaction. So the factors that prevent anybody from becoming a dissatisfied person are five. They are company or organizational policies and administration. So what kind of policies a company is following and what is the nature of administration. Second, the style of supervision. The supervisors, how they behave. Are they behaving in a mature way or an immature way? Are they riding roughshod over the heads of workers and employees, or are they considerate and they care for the employees and all this kind of supervision, the style of supervision. Thirdly, the working conditions, both the physical, material, as well as psychological, social conditions of work. So they should all be conducive. Then dissatisfaction is prevented. And next importantly, fourthly, interpersonal relations. Interpersonal relations are relations between employees at workplace, between the bosses and subordinates, between the colleagues, and between everybody in the workplace. So these relations also must be smooth and harmonious. And finally, money, status and security. More money, a job getting more money is something that prevents dissatisfaction. A job that assures a good status to the employee, the status is quite important. I think fellow gets a feeling that he is enjoying a very high status. Of course, this feeling of getting high status does not work out as a motivator, but it works to only prevent dissatisfaction. And finally, security of job. Your job is almost permanent and you can be assured of continuing the job if everything goes well, if you are performing all right. So there is no fear of losing the job and all that. So money, security and status are yet other factors, hygiene factors. So let me just summarize. The hygiene factors are those which prevent dissatisfaction. These factors don't really bring motivation, because satisfiers alone bring motivation. But dissatisfiers factors, they work as a threshold. I think they provide a kind of basement or a base on which you can try to get motivation. They are important, no doubt. But by themselves, hygiene factors don't bring in motivation and superior performance. They only prevent dissatisfaction, and these things are policies and administration, supervision, working conditions, interpersonal relations, money, status, and security. Now, these are the two factors. Now, this is the summary of the two factor theory, which is also known as Motivators and Hygiene Factor, conveyed in his book that was mentioned. Coming to how to bring more motivation, this is a very important question. Of course, to heighten motivation or to improve motivation in the workplace, the motivators also indirectly convey the point that the jobs must be well structured, job design must be good, there should be scope for achievement, there should be recognition, challenging work, increased responsibility, growth development, etc. etc. In addition to this, he has recommended two important techniques. These are known as job enrichment and job enlargement. Job enrichment is known as vertical loading. Let me just once again mention that job enrichment and job enlargement are techniques that are recommended by Herzberg to bring in superior motivation. Job enrichment is known as vertical loading, and job enlargement is known as horizontal loading. Loading is increasing the gamut of work, the area of work. Job enrichment is giving an employee challenging work. Perhaps a work at that level of employment people don't normally expect. You are getting a work which is normally not thought of, and the work is such that it's not possible for everybody to do. The work is very challenging. Only exceptionally good people can do that. So such type of work being given is one of the examples of job enrichment. And job enrichment also means a greater responsibility. A person at a lower down level lower down, is given a superior responsibility. So this gives an employee a kind of thrill that I am donning the role of a boss and all that. He feels happy. And there should be creation of opportunities for growth and development. When all these things are done, you are enriching the job. You are enriching the job by vertical loading, which is giving challenging work, increasing responsibility, and creation of opportunities for growth and development. The job enlargement, as has been mentioned, is horizontal loading. Horizontal loading means increasing the variety in the work of an employee. Work done by an employee can be of two different types. One type of work is highly monotonous work. Mono means single, same type of work. It is something like an ox yoked to the oil press. In villages, in the old times, used to find oil presses where an oxen was yoked to that, and the oil seeds were pressed into some groove, and out comes the oil, and the ox is moving 360 degrees in a circle all the time throughout his life, day in and day out, every moment. So this is the kind of work. And as an industrial psychologist, Herzberg believed that monotonous work, unvarying nature of work, leads to fatigue. Fatigue is a condition that comes because of monotony, doing the same. It's a disgust with the kind of work. So, taking a cue from this, Herzberg recommends that the work that an employee does has to be of a different, should have a range. Let's say an employee has to do 4 different kinds of work. If he is bored of doing one kind of work, he will go to second kind of work, third kind of work, fourth kind of work, and so on. I'm reminded of a saying that leisure is not absence of work but change of work. If you change the work, you feel happy. The reason why this happens is that when you do a particular kind of work, certain parts of the body are exercised. Other parts of the body are dull and passive. They are not activated. So if you are overly exerting certain parts of the body, that leads to fatigue, boredom, and a disinterest in work. But if you change the work, you are able to exercise certain other bodily faculties. So therefore, some freshness comes and individual gets regain some energy, and the energy comes back, and the fellow will be fresh in doing that kind of work. And this is the idea is conveying. Uh, Two words summarize what is horizontal loading. It is multi-skilling and job rotation. This is, I think, a practice which is widely followed in the current day MNCs and all. Multinational organizations and many prosperous and progressive organizations are trying to create variety in the work of the employee. And one way in which you can do this is you transfer people from one seat to another, where the nature of job is slightly different. So the fellow will have a freshness in his, he will be doing something de novo, and therefore he has some interest. Something new will excite him, and therefore he will stay concentrated for some time. So if somebody has multiple skills, instead of gone are the days in which specialization was highly prized. Now the recommendation is the people like Herzberg say that you create variety in the work. So this comes from multi-skill. An employee should be made to use multiple skills, not single skill. And next important thing is job rotation. Job rotation is changing people are swapping jobs. X goes to Y seat and Y goes to X seat, and this is one way of building team spirit, team building, and making understand other man's compulsions and problems. Oftentimes in organizations, one colleague has complained against the other colleague, saying that he's very cold, he's not very cooperative, he's not understanding his point of view and all that. So those things may be because of some job compulsions. If X goes into Y's job, and he will realize what are those real compulsions, and he would appreciate. I think this understanding. I think though earlier this man was unhappy, and he made some bad comments against me, and this was because of dejection and frustration he had because of this very ticklish nature of work, and he was so much tired, and therefore he was at wit's end, and therefore he must have used it. Now you understand the fellow better. Similarly, the other fellow also can understand. So these are two important techniques. Let me just summarize these. Job enrichment, job enlargement. The first one is known as vertical loading, which is giving more authority, more responsibility, more challenging work to people. And job enlargement is giving variety in the work, creating a variety of work, including multi-skilling and job rotation. We perhaps come to the last part of Herzberg, that's about the critical appreciation of Herzberg. Herzberg's, he has made a number of contributions, as was mentioned, he made contributions to electric shock, and he has made contributions to clinical psychology, and his important contributions to the concept of administration and management is that motivation is something which is the core of management and administration. Motivation is something which is very, very hard to do. And he has made a very important contribution to motivation by sifting out what are the hygiene factors for motivators. People were earlier thinking that there were so many factors behind motivation. Good salary, I think status, security, some of these things are good motivators. But Herzberg corrected our perception by saying that they are not motivators, they only prevent dissatisfaction. And this is a very, very important contribution of him. Mere absence of dissatisfaction does not bring in satisfaction. So the job of managers or the bosses is not only to prevent dissatisfaction, but also to introduce elements of work that cause excitement, interest, and motivation to the employees. And critic pointed out that Herzberg's theory is good to listen. You quite appreciate that, yes, is what all he's saying is right, but people are asking that there is no empirical evidence to what he has shown. Of course, one can, people like Herzberg, if Herzberg were to answer, I would say that, my dear, well, I have done this on the basis of empirical studies, made a study on the basis of that only I am saying. But somehow, the objective critics feel that it does not have a real gut empirical support to validate all his contentions, and his contentions remain contentious. They remain unresolved, and there is no clinching evidence that Herzberg is right. Nevertheless, his contribution is very important, and the contribution is mainly to the psychology. In fact, students should understand that public administration is an interdisciplinary subject, and knowledge from various social sciences is absolutely important to understand public administration in proper perspective. And Herzberg has made contribution from the standpoint of psychology, and a very valuable contribution. And there is a novel contribution he has made, and he has really drawn our attention to the real gut motivators that should be focused for bringing in more productivity in the public organizations. I think we'll close this presentation by making one last observation, that Herzberg's theory of two factors, or motivation hygiene theory, is an important contribution to public administration from the social psychological perspective. Herzberg did not only marshal the subject knowledge of psychology, he has also used the knowledge of sociology. So he is an important social psychologist, and social psychologist intervention into public administration. Initially, it was the forte of the political scientists, later of mechanical engineers, but the social psychologists and organizational psychologists, they have enriched administrative theory by focusing attention on certain disciplinary dimensions which been noticed otherwise, and Herzberg has made an important contribution in this direction. Thank you.